Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we're back. But we are missing somebody. But this is the only podcast that's known to squeeze the shaman. So here we go. We're gonna get right into it, get rolling, and we got a special guest this week, Derek. You want to introduce yourself and tell everybody what your background is, what you're into, before we hit the email bag?
So, grew up in the South, from Louisiana. Been watching wrestling pretty much my entire life. Pretty current on like WWE type stuff, and work in healthcare and just like to run and work out.
Sounds good. That's why Ed said he had a few guys, so I said I'm putting all the heat on you, Ed. If something goes sideways, I'm blaming you.
Well, when isn't anything my fault anyway? I'm used to that, so I'm used to wearing the bullseye. So that
right. It's like Jimmy Garvin. It's not my fault.
Yeah. No, it's always my fault. Don't you know? I learned that a long time ago. Hey, yeah. I'm not even there for 6 months. It's my fault. I get it.
It's hard enough to try to get you to do a whole podcast with putting some pants on. So let's.
Hey! You don't know my personal life.
Speaking of bags, let's hit the mailbag. And what do you got this week?
Let's hit the mailbag. Yeah, let's hit the mailbag. So this one right here, this is from Malcolm from Davenport, Iowa. Well, first of all, Malcolm, thanks for supporting the show, man. Really do appreciate it. So this one is it's about blood and wrestling. 1973, you guys should have a bigger following. Yes, we thoroughly agree, and we're tired of couch fishing. We're tired of couch fishing for our stuff,
Yeah, we're waiting to get the power play together.
Yeah, I mean, we're working on it,
Yeah.
And then, and he wants to say something to our haters. He says, fuck those haters, which we do appreciate that as well.
I like it.
Been a wrestling fan my whole life. Are you fans of blood in a modern match? And P.S. Ed that reads the mail needs to talk more. It's funny shit. It's funny. Well, Malcolm, thank you. I like to be a legend in my own mind. So, thank you. I really appreciate that. Do not do well to criticism either. So, I think I'm kind of a prima donna sometimes. So, anyway.
Nothing about putting pants on though, right?
Hey, pants are optional, baby.
Yeah, they just happen to blow off, officer.
He wants to talk.
I resemble that statement on occasion.
So before we get going, Ed, we got to address the elephant in the room. Before we get into the blood and wrestling, we got to address why is the professor not here this week? Want to take that one?
Yeah, I'm going to take this one. First and foremost, he was not with the Iron Sheik and Hacksaw Jim Duggan, so he was that. So he wasn't with that. Okay, he did not fly off a steel cage at a death match. Okay, he is not with New Japan Wrestling right now. He's a little bit under the weather, and he's actually having a COVID test, which probably goes against almost every single HIPAA thing that's out there known to mankind. But our crack commando legal team of Bleeker and Cohog will handle that if there's ever any problems.
Yeah.
So he's the only man that I know that actually needs to have a COVID test. Didn't even know COVID even existed anymore.
Yeah. He got the polio vaccine, he got the measles, the mumps, everything's all in one shot these days.
Well, hopefully it doesn't settle in his kidneys.
Yes. Yeah. So let's get back to the email. Let's start talking some wrestling. Let's go with some views on modern day blood and wrestling. Ed, what do you think?
Man, first and foremost, I think that there's still a place in there in modern wrestling today for it. But I do feel like putting it up on national TV on an every week thing, I think that's too much. I think that, to go along with your point that you always have, Andy, about, that should be like, pay-per-view type stuff or like special event match, that type of thing. Just for every single week with, what's his name, that comes out the Wild thing. Every single match. Moxley, you blow on him and all of a sudden he's bleeding all over the place.
Yeah.
I don't think that's needed every week, because if you're putting out a consistent product, and you're hitting your demographics and, and the right guys are getting the pop, I don't think that you need to use that. I think it's something that you can use, at special times, like steel cage matches, stuff like that. Or, if somebody's really trying to get over, then, a couple chair shots and something like that, but not every week. I don't think that there's a need for that. Derek?
Okay, Derek, this is your moment to shine. Let's hit us with
Come on, Derek.
Yeah.
Big hand for Derek. Come on, man. It's crossing the finish line, baby. Come on.
So backing off what you said, I do agree. So yeah, like premium events, pay-per-view events, like that's the for it every week. You know, not so much. I still think there's an audience for it. So like, ECW back in the day, they bled every week, and there was an audience that wanted to see that every week. Um, but it also came on late at night, right? So your kids weren't really exposed to it unless the door was shut and locked, and they were watching it without you knowing. So I think there's still a place for it. There's just a time and a place for everything.
My views on it is I think that the WWE has gone too much the other way, where it's supposed to they don't tell a story. They tell a really good story with the bloodline. Let me pause that there. But blood in general, where they have the no blood policy, I think at certain times where you want to build an angle and just that little bit of oh shit moment where somebody gets busted open, and it kind of like draws you in a little bit, especially if it's like somebody like that super over as a baby face, and they get drawn in. What's going to happen next? Is this guy out for a while? Is it going to cause an injury angle? It can be used to build a story. But as far as like with everything, overkill, one of the best things that I always give for an example when it comes to talking about wrestling is all the flipping and all that stuff that goes on in modern day wrestling. You can go to Las Vegas and see the best tumblers in the world for Circus Soleil, but how many times you're going to go once you went once? You've seen it. You're not going to go weekend after weekend and go see Circus Soleil. You might see it once, maybe wait 3 or 4 years and then go see it again. Maybe you have a different, you want to bring your kids when you used to bring your wife, but how many times you're actually going to see that and it still have that same lasting effect? And that's what I mean about the storytelling in wrestling. I tell these guys all the time, that's what's lost in it, drawing you in, like how the bloodline is, it draws you in, and they can let it simmer on the stove and grow and kind of go from there. And that's what I miss about modern day wrestling is they never let anything happen organically and let it collect. That's why, as much as I don't like the length of time that Roman Reigns has had the belt because of the guys that he's passing, who else is he going to really lose it to? There's nobody else that's really in it on his level for storytelling with Paul Heyman. So I don't know. What's your thoughts on the non-blood in the WWE?
So I think I would love to see Jay smash Roman and just like split him wide open.
Yeah,
I would love to, but we know it's not going to happen.
Right. But it would be really cool to see it, though.
What's that?
It'd be really cool to see.
Yeah, I would love to see it happen. But it enhances the moment when it would happen. It just kind of brings it up to that next level.
Right.
Like Brock, Lesnar, he bleeds pretty easy, so he's really got to play his cards where he's not getting hit in the head a lot.
Yeah. And for him, sometimes he does it intentionally, and I think nobody can tell him not to do it because he's got that. He's one of the few guys that's believable in wrestling, and I miss that. I miss the not the larger than life type characters. I miss the regular old school guys that couldn't hold a 9-to-5 job, that's what they do for a living, and you're not gonna pull anything cute with them in the ring. If they don't want to do something, they're gonna physically not let you do it. And I think Brock Lesnar is one of the few that's left. So yeah, we lost Ed for a little bit. He's back, and we kind of kicked around blood in the modern day WWE and how they're kind of PG, and maybe just to put a exclamation point on the WWE thought with the blood, maybe that third hour on Raw, most kids should be in bed by 10, and maybe that's when that hour should be a little bit more adult. I'm not saying like Attitude Era, but maybe they should save that bloodline storyline for after 10 and do more with it. And maybe if you want to have the women's match or something involving them after 10 o'clock and do a little bit more risque, maybe, maybe you would draw more fans back. I mean, back in the day, in the height of the Attitude Era, I know it's before streaming, they were getting like 6 million views in an hour. Now you're lucky if you get 500,000 to 1 million, and that there's something to be said about that. Everybody that's an odd age demographic, very few watch it now because of the style. So speaking of style and talking about that email with the blood, let's talk this week about Dark Side of the Ring. Let's talk Abdullah the Butcher. When I was a kid, I was a huge NWA guy. When that guy popped up, very believable. Very, very, very believable. Ed, thoughts on Abdullah the Butcher, especially Stockade 85 with Manny Fernandez, Mexican Death Match? We watched that as kids.
Yeah, we did.
So many times.
Yeah, we did, man. And, like looking back, I mean, you knew he was big back then, and like it was just like he was such a believable character, and he just brought it, and he was just truly vicious, especially with the fork all the time. I mean, when you heard that he was going to be on, you knew it was going to be like this brutal match, and it just made like that era just kind of pop, like yourself, Andy. I mean, I was much more of a, NWA, WCW kind of guy, AWA, that type of thing versus, WWE or WWF back in those days, especially, even though I did buy the record, not gonna lie, but I mean, now if I remember correctly, there was an Abdullah the Butcher action figure from AWA. Is that
there was? There
okay.
was. It came with Carlos Colon.
Okay.
In a 2-pack. Yep. So thoughts on the Dark Side of the Ring episode? Go ahead, Derek. Take over, or Ed will talk the whole hour.
Well, that's what I do, man. I talk a lot.
So I really enjoyed.
Derek, you can laugh at that. You can laugh. That's funny. They make fun of me here, don't you know? And I'm okay with that, don't you know?
No. So I really enjoyed the documentary. So there were two things. My two big takeaways was they talked a lot about if he really could read or write. I kind of think that maybe he probably could, because you wouldn't do certain things. Anyway, but also I'd like to see how he influenced a lot of people that I also grew up with, like Mick Foley and Tommy Dreamer, and that hardcore wrestling. You could definitely see the influence in there.
The thing about Abdullah that's funny is I've watched when the shoot interviews were big right before the internet. I used to buy those things religiously, all kinds of, and I still like watching anybody. Someday I hope to have a wrestler, or a couple wrestlers on the podcast, and hit them with questions, because I've watched so many different ones over the years, and they're still prevalent on YouTube. And the thing that I find about Abdullah the Butcher that's funny is he seems like a very cunning individual as far as a con man style. He and Bruiser Brody did a lot of business together, and he was there when he got killed, and he acts like he knew nothing about it, even though he owned part of the territory. You go back and you watch that Dark Side of the Ring about the murder of Bruiser Brody. There's some sketchiness in there with Abdullah, and I had nothing to do. I passed him on the airplane, or I passed him going to the hotel. I didn't know he got stabbed. Blah 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 blah. And I still find him shady. I think that he cut other people intentionally, even way back in the day. If they weren't going to bleed, he was going to make them bleed, kind of thing. And that thing with Hannibal, I know Hannibal's got his own YouTube stuff, and I don't know, the real deep dive into that. There's a documentary about that, but that the footage of him cutting him after he already cut himself, that, I don't know if that bothers you guys, but what do you think about that?
Derek, go first.
So, oh wow, such a gentleman.
We got 2 words for you, Derek.
I think Abdullah was all about the show, and I think maybe Hannibal didn't cut himself enough, so he was like, "I'm going to cut you some more," and that's what it boiled down to. You know, he was, as they said in the documentary, he was an entertainer. You know, he was all about entertaining his folks, and the blood is what he was about.
Yeah.
Maybe he enough there, and he was going to make it happen.
So the thing that's funny about his character is he made all this money from the late 60s. That he was one of the first really big American to go to Japan, even before the Funks, and really tear it up over there. And he's got nothing to show for it now. Absolutely. And it's just crazy how these guys make all this money, even like Flair with his marriages and stuff, and they don't have nothing to show for it. Absolutely nothing. And it just, nobody, I don't know, financially talks to these guys or say, hey, you should do some real good investments with your money or whatever. That's the part of it. It's always the same story at the end: broke, either dead and broke, or don't talk to your kids and broke, or all three: dead, broke, and don't talk to your kids. It's amazing. But yeah, you, what do you think, Ed? Con man, can't read and write. What's your take?
Dude, I'm calling a bunch of bullshit, man. Like, dude, if you own part of a territory and you're this much of a hustler and you're making that much money, like, dude, you know how to sign deals. You know what I mean? And they said it in the documentary, like, it was like, oh, now we really need to find this second grade teacher that taught him this well, you know. And so I mean, the thing about it is just like, back in the day when you and I would watch it and we talk about this in, in seventh and eighth grade, I mean, the only person that would actually talk to me about, NWA wrestling was the dude that was sitting next to me in class, that was you, and, and it was just like, and so, I mean, it was really entertaining back in those days. And, for these guys to have like, it just, every one of them is like a tragedy, I mean, Flair was on Joe Rogan and he's just like, yeah, I paid over $1 million in alimony, I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, there should be like some sort of a financial planner that like talks to these guys like, hey, look, when you start making money, like put some in the bank, maybe
Yeah.
you need like some sort of like high speed account from American Express or something like that.
Well, as far as like, I know that they've done so much now with the younger guys in WWE, the way they set them up with a financial planner, and they just, try to help them out so that they don't have long-term problems like these guys do. But it, you know what it is it's uneducated guys that's their only line of work back then. That's all they could do, and they didn't know how to, handle any of the money out and stay away from, say no to drugs, kids. That's what they should have done. But hey, with that being said, let's move on to the network that AEW is on. Sent them a bunch of restrictions that they have now. So I ended up getting the professor involved, and he was supposed to come up with a list, but I had to do the deep dive this week, hockey tournaments and all. Had to do the deep dive, get the information so we can get this podcast rolling. So I'm going to read them.
Do I need to interrupt you with a Don Cherryism? Well, you people
out
there.
Yeah, speaking of that, while I was at the tournament, a bunch of I'm going to say a handful of people talking to me about the podcast. So it is out there. It's just a matter of who wants to admit they watch it. And I know for a fact there's a bunch of people out there that watch it and they don't want to admit it, but just keep watching. Damn it.
Wait, was the Portuguese Phantom there? Was he there? Was the Portuguese Phantom there?
No, he's retired. He's retired.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's retired. Okay.
Yeah, he's in total lame mode now. So so this first list that I have is all things that the network said that AEW has to get permission from Tony Khan or an agent before they do. Okay. So the first one is any table, ladder, and chairs in and out of the ring have to be approved for the match. So before somebody can use any of the objects, that has to be approved. Thoughts on let's start with just that.
So they're going to start using prop chairs and stuff
No,
like
no,
that?
no, no. In order to pull a chair out or to use like a ladder or pull a table out from under the ring,
Okay.
that has to be approved by AEW for that match. Thoughts on that?
Well,
it gets worse from here, but go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, but the thing about it is that if AEW, from a corporate standpoint, would actually take control of the storyline, they could actually say it's a good idea or not, instead of this other shenanigans. You know, I mean, so it all comes back to the writing crew. You know, like it. So the thing about it is you can toss these rules down to these guys, but the thing about it is that it's all about creative. Creative's not doing their job, so they're creating rules to hamper these guys because creative can't do their job. That's what this is.
Derek, thoughts on that first section?
It kind of takes some of the organicness away from it, but I see it from a corporate standpoint. You know, they maybe want some more control. I see both sides of it.
Okay.
Stop being so diplomatic, Derek. It makes
no. We got quite a bit to go through, and we probably got about less than 10 minutes. So
okay.
Well, we're rolling along. But even if we got some left, we'll save it. But I think the problem with AEW right now is there's been guys like Jake the Snake, Arn Anderson, that have gone on record to say that they've approached guys about their match. They haven't said who. Approach guys about their match, and they're like, don't talk to me. I already got a contract. So I think part of this is coming from too much of it is happening. Like when Matt Hardy got blasted with the chair from Sammy Guevara, where he just like launched it at him and gave him a concussion in the back of the head and things like that. So, if every match you're seeing this, it kind of desensitizes you from. So I think they're really trying to not only just hinder it, they're trying to grow and try to, not make it so much of it so that you don't see it as much. So,
but that's my point about creative, though.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There's the thing is that, well, then creative needs to do a better job.
Right.
That's my point.
The next thing I have is no diving off any structures in the arena. So in order, like say like a New Jack thing, or like Jeff Hardy, or you're diving off, in the arena spots where it's an overhang or something that's not meant to be, even by a regular person to be jumped off. They don't want anything done like that unless it's approved. Thoughts on that?
I don't have a problem with that at all, because it all goes back to creative, right? And I think it goes back to your point, and it also goes back to Derek's point. Like the thing about it is just like if you desensitize everybody to it, then they expect it every single week.
Yeah.
And the thing is that, and eventually you're going to break down all your stars, and they're trying to build stars, but they don't do a very good job from a creative standpoint in doing that. Yeah. So they're hurting guys like Kenny Omega and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, there's only really 2 or 3 guys that truly get a true pop when they come out. We all know who they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the other ones is all pile drivers and tombstone variations have to be approved for a match. So if you're going to use a pile driver, a tombstone, or some kind of wacky variation of that, Tiger Driver, et cetera, that has to be approved by, an agent or Tony Khan. What do you think?
Honestly, I think the thing about it is that part of the problem with AEW is that the finishing moves don't finish. Right? So here's the thing. A pile driver, that's the move. It's done. Like, we're to use the line that the guys use, we're going home. Right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Derek, what do you think?
Yeah. And I think exactly what you said. That's a finishing move, and they want it used for that. Let me do 4 pile drivers before I get this guy down. Well, it's fine, but it needs to be at the end. Do 1 and it's done.
Yep. Yeah, the thing I always thought that was cool about the NWA with the psychology of them, not so much getting disqualified for throwing a guy over the top rope, but I always thought when they outlawed the pile driver, and it was like the move that was like outlawed, that it's banned for 90 days or it's banned for 6 months. I always thought that was just a cool concept. But where these guys kick out of everything. It's like, what are you going to drive a cement truck in this arena and put them under the, the floor of the arena to get them to stay down? It's like, it should be. I know I'm going to get on a tangent with this, but the psychology of wrestling is it's a sport, and everybody's trying to win the championship, just like baseball, football. The Lombardi Trophy is the world heavyweight title. You're wrestling to be the champion. And that whole storyline of your culmination of all your small storylines should be the championship. And if it's not that, and it's just a spot fest, it doesn't mean anything. It's like being at the circus. I don't know if you heard us talking about that one, Ed, but I told Derek, when you go to see the best circus in the world, Circus Soleil, how many times are you going to see it? You can only see it once or twice before you're like, yeah, I'm good. And it's the same thing with the Young Bucks and all that. Nothing means anything. The moonsault was a finisher. Now it's a setup move. It's like a hip toss. Yeah. It's like I'd love for somebody to come along and use the sleeper as your finisher. Old school sleeper, get you in it, knock you out, done. I would love to see that. That's why everybody watches the UFC, because it's old school. It's almost like how wrestling was in the 20s, like that. Yep. Two guys going at it, and that's it. And there's more pageantry in the UFC with shit talking than they let go on in WWE. So that's so.
But part of that too is, honestly, the guys are not really that good at talking shit.
No.
They're not good on the microphone.
You know why?
It's so forced.
But I'll tell you why they're not good, because they've never been in a real fight.
Oh,
that's why. That. They've never been punched in the face for real, because I guarantee you, if some of those guys were, they wouldn't be wrestling. If there was some real men still left wrestling, smacking some of those young bucks around, it wouldn't be the same. It wouldn't be the same. So high risk dives and top rope moves have to be pre-approved. So, like say that same backflip that Hangman's got to do every single time off the top rope to a crowd of guys just waiting there for him. It looks so bad, but you could get hurt. Somebody could get kicked in the head or something like that. So, thoughts on that quick?
Derek?
Part of that is, they're looking out for their athletes as well.
Yeah.
You have to kind of protect the longevity of your brand. With any team, you want to keep your athletes healthy. And I think that might be part of the rules as well. Just looking out for their talent.
Okay. Yep. So any initial bleeding or blade jobs have to be, like if somebody's going to bust somebody open the hard way, like a Brock Lesnar with the elbow or something like that, or, you're going to bust out the blade, that has to be pre-approved, which I understand. Somebody should be a gate with that and say, hey, listen, there's no storyline here that needs any blood. Or, hey, listen, dude, we're trying to do an injury angle here, so, get a little color. So I can see that. That especially with Moxley, that guy, you touch him, he starts bleeding all over you.
Yeah, but I think it all kind of goes back to creative though, because the thing about it is just like if they actually knew what they're talking, like they actually created like an angle and have a slow build like they should. And the thing about it is like, let's be honest, right? Like the finishing moves don't mean anything. So why are you putting blood in every match? It all goes back to like what Stone Cold said, like when he was finished with his run with The Rock. Who was next? Who do they have next up for him? And so why don't you want to make these storylines run?
Right.
You have good guys that are good. Well, keep feeding them.
Right.
And like start grooming your younger talent so they can go up there. But what do I know?
Well, that's why we're talking. That's why we have a podcast, so we can let everybody know what you know.
There you go.
So
remember, nothing means nothing, right?
Yeah. You can't get blood from a stone.
That's right. Nothing means nothing.
So anytime that anybody gets thrown through a table, a barricade, steel steps, anything like that has to be pre-approved. Thoughts on that?
Derek?
That's a little much.
Yeah, you don't want to see 4 matches in a night where everybody ended up going through a table. So I guess a lot of it is structured for more of a gate to laying out the whole night now, rather than, you watch 6 matches and 5 out of the 6, somebody went through a table some way, somehow, or into the steel step. So I kind of get what they can kind of do with the overall structure of it from a creative standpoint, and then color within those lines. And then if somebody's being an ass and saying, hey, listen, I want to do this, they're going to be like, in match 2, we already had, 2 guys go through a table in a tag team match. So you can't do it. We can't have, you got to spread it around and kind of build the story around that. So I get it. And I see you trying to protect talent too. So, I'm trying to stay with this. Go ahead.
Sitting around like, oh, we got 5 matches tonight and we got 5 people that want to, jump off the top rope. So here, y'all are going to draw straws, and whoever gets the long straw, you can jump off the top rope tonight. Yeah, all y'all else do it.
I think that's the difference between a guy like Tony Khan and Vince McMahon. As much as I'm not a McMahon guy, at least he is the go, no go. He is the final say, whether you like it or not. At least he's smart enough to know that you can't have that every match. You got to have, it's another circus aspect. You want to see the high wire act. You want to see the guy get shot out of a cannon. You want to see the lion tamer. You want to see, you want to see a little everything. So I get it if you want to stay within that thought process, but it's tough because some of these guys haven't even been trained well, and they don't know anything about psychology and telling a story. I mean, look at MJF. That guy can tell a story without even diving out of the ring. And, the Usos and the Roman Reigns storyline, they can spend 20 minutes just pushing the story along week to week, and maybe there's a super kick and a melee at the end. So, sometimes less is more. It's all about creating those organic bad guys that people want to see get beat. That's what it's about. Two grown men that are in a fight with a conflict. If you don't have that, then you don't have a story. Nobody wants to see a guy that you work with, that you're bigger than, be in pro wrestling. I want to see guys that look like men. I don't want to see guys that look like they just came from a junior high school dance. That's what I want to see in my wrestling. That's what's lost with it. Any weapons as far as like chairs, bats, tables, chains, any foreign objects like that they would pull in from out of the ring all have to be pre-approved now. So I think it's going to prevent the, match after match. This guy pulled a sledgehammer out. Now this guy's going to pull a bat. Now this guy's going to pull a hockey stick. Now this guy's going to pull a tie iron. I think it's just kind of to slow that down as far as so you don't see the same thing in every match. Thoughts?
The guy with the
so they don't want anybody doing any angles without approval that has to do with choking somebody or hanging them. So as far as that goes, how can you get an injury storyline over with some cheap heat if you don't hang somebody? Or I'm not saying like hang somebody like the old South kind of hanging. I'm saying like drape somebody over the rope and strangle them like with the cameraman cable or something like that to get heat. That all now remember, these things aren't banned. They just have to be pre-approved before you do it. So there's still, yeah, go ahead, Ed.
No, I don't have a problem with it. I mean, I think part of it is just like creative just needs to do a better job. And it all comes back on them. You can sit here and you can blame the wrestlers and everything like that. They're just trying to get over. Well, isn't part of creative's job is to try to get everybody over and build the machine? I mean, that's the job, is it not?
It's tough to get somebody over when you have good ideas and they don't want to listen to you, especially from.
Well, I mean, there's that whole part too. But I mean, the thing about it is that TK should be the one that, like, funny story, on the bus, you do what I say.
So we got about 2 minutes left, so I'm going to throw it around real quick. We actually got really quick. I just want to wish Tom speedy recovery. Come back next week. We'll be ready for you. Got something special for next 2 episodes, 25th episodes coming up. We got some stuff in the works for that. Derek, we're going to kick it to you. Thanks for coming on. Any shout outs, kids, wife, guys at work?
Shout out to my triathlon coach.
Hey, thanks, man.
Yeah, I heard that guy prefers the pickle, but that's a whole nother story. So, Ed, in closing, what do you got for a quick shout out? Anything?
Man, I first and foremost tell him to get well, man. You know, we never want to see anybody go down. So, number two, just want to say that no, I do not like the pickle. That is not my thing.
Oh, it's you? Oh, I didn't even know it was you.
Whatever, dude.
You just outed yourself.
Whatever. Whatever, dude.
It's not the pickle. You just drink the brine out of the jar. What's wrong with you?
There you go.
I
just
heard
gave
it
you a
has
softball.
medicinal
There you go.
purposes.
There you go. You just got it. No, so other than that, just thanks for supporting us and appreciate everything. And that's all. That's all I got.
All right, everybody. So for this week, we got more AEW to talk about next week. So for all of us, thanks for coming on, Derek, and we'll see you next week at the matches.
Later.
Later.